My girlfriend and I almost broke up over money last year. She thought I was being cheap. I thought she was being reckless. Who was right? Probably both of us, a little. That's almost always how it is. Money fights are rarely actually about money. They're about values, what each person believes money is for, and about control, and about the fears each person carries from their financial past. We don't even know what each other makes. We just kind of handle our own stuff separately. That works up to a point. Then you have a shared goal, a house, a vacation, having kids, retiring, and suddenly you realize you've been flying separately with no shared map. How do you even start that conversation without it going sideways immediately? You start with goals, not numbers. Goals are easier to agree on. Most couples discover they want the same things when they stop arguing about how much each person is currently spending. The numbers come after the goals are clear. We want the same things. We just spend differently. That's the conversation. And it's survivable if you have it deliberately. Money is the most common source of serious conflict in romantic relationships. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling has documented in multi-top source of stress and disagreement in partnerships, and the Institute for Divorce Financial Analysts consistently identifies financial issues as one of the leading contributors to divorce proceedings. Not because couples are fundamentally incompatible, but because most couples enter a shared financial life, having never been taught how to talk about money, and carrying completely different, largely unexamined beliefs about what money means and what it should be used for.
Those unexamined beliefs come from somewhere. Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, argues that no one's relationship with money exists in isolation. It is shaped by what they observed in the household they grew up in, by the financial security or instability they experienced as children, by the messages, spoken and unspoken, they received about spending, saving, debt, and what money represents in terms of safety, status, love, and control. Two people forming a partnership bring two completely different financial histories into one shared financial life. The conflict that follows is not a sign of incompatibility. It is a predictable outcome of two sets of deeply held, rarely articulated money beliefs meeting each other in real precoce financial situations, without a shared framework for resolving the differences.
The most important structural insight for couples managing money together is this: money conflict almost never begins with a disagreement about an amount. It begins with a disagreement about values. What a particular purchase represents, what it signals about priorities, what it communicates about how the future is imagined. The argument about whether to buy new furniture is not about furniture. It is about whether this partner treats the home as a priority worth investing in or as a place where money should be conserved for something more important. Both positions are valid. Neither partner is wrong. But without a shared understanding of what each person values and why, the furniture argument cannot be resolved. It can only be temporarily suppressed and repeated the next time money touches a values difference.
Here is a practical framework for couples who want to have a functional, ongoing conversation about money without it becoming adversarial.
Start with goals before numbers. Sit down together and answer a simple set of questions independently, then compare. What would financial security look like to you in 5 years? What does it look like in 20? What do you want money to make possible? What would you most regret not having spent money on? What financial situation would make you feel most afraid? These questions surface the values that are driving the money behaviors that are causing friction before the behaviors themselves become the subject of argument. In most cases, couples discover that their values overlap significantly and that the conflict was never about whether to prioritize a goal. It was about what the goal looked like in practice and whose definition was being used.
The second practical element is a regular, scheduled money meeting, sometimes called a money date, that happens on a fixed schedule rather than reactively when a financial problem has already surfaced. Most couples only talk about money when one partner is stressed about it, which means every money conversation of the crisis that triggered it carries the emotional weight of the crisis that triggered it. A regular money meeting, monthly, is enough for most couples. More frequent during periods of active financial change creates a neutral, low-stakes context for reviewing the budget, discussing upcoming expenses, checking progress toward goals, and making financial decisions together before they become decisions made unilaterally under pressure.
Ramit Sethi, in I Will Teach You to Be Rich, recommends what he calls the 3-account model for couples who maintain some financial independence while also sharing costs. A joint account for shared expenses and shared goals. A personal account for each partner that contains a discretionary spending amount agreed upon in advance. The personal accounts are each partner's spending money for purchases, gifts, personal indulgences, or anything else, with no requirement to report or justify those expenditures to the other. The joint account is managed together, transparently, with shared visibility and shared decision-making authority. This structure preserves individual financial autonomy while creating a genuinely shared financial foundation, removing the dynamic where one partner feels controlled by the other's approval of every personal purchase.
The Federal Reserve's Survey of Consumer Finances shows that couples who report discussing financial goals and decisions together regularly are significantly more likely to report high financial well-being and significantly less likely to carry persistent high-interest debt than couples who manage finances separately or only discuss money when conflict has already arisen. The correlation is not explained by income. Financially stable couples span all income levels. It is explained by the presence of a shared framework, a regular communication habit, and a mutual understanding of what the money is working toward.
Here is what the money conversation is actually asking when you strip away the immediate context of any specific disagreement. It is asking, what do we both believe money is for? It is asking, how did each of us learn to relate to money? And are those lessons still serving us? It is asking, what do we want our shared financial life to produce for us? And are we building toward that together? These questions are not resolved in a single conversation. They are returned to over time, as the relationship deepens and as financial circumstances change. The couples who handle money well are not the ones who agree on everything. They are the ones who have built enough shared language and enough practiced communication that disagreements become discussions rather than arguments.
Start with goals. Schedule the conversation. Agree on the discretionary amount for each person. Let the numbers follow the direction that the values conversation has already established.
Money is not what the fight is about. The fight is about whether you feel seen, whether your priorities are being respected, and whether the financial future you are building together is one you both actually want. That conversation is easier than it sounds. It just has to happen intentionally, rather than in the middle of an argument about furniture. So the money fight isn't really about money. It's about whether our values are being respected. Almost always. The furniture argument is about priorities and what home means, not about the furniture. Start with goals, not numbers. Figure out what we both want before we argue about what we're currently spending. And do it on a schedule, not when one of you is already stressed about a bill. The 3-account model. Joint account for shared stuff. Personal accounts for personal spending, with no questions asked. That last part matters as much as the joint account. Both partners need to feel like they have some financial autonomy. Without it, one partner ends up feeling like every purchase requires approval. She and I have never talked about what we actually want in 5 years. Most couples haven't. Start there. The numbers will feel much less threatening once you're both pointed in the same direction.